Good afternoon and a warm welcome to Dun& Bradstreet's webinar on impact of COVID-19 on small business in India. Today we are launching our white paper on impact of COVID-19 on small businesses in India and the way ahead. Today we have with us our speakers, Mr. Avinash Gupta, Managing Director and CEO India, Dun& Bradstreet, and Dr. Arun Singh, Global Chief Economist, Dun& Bradstreet. Post the presentation, we would have a Q&A session. We would request you to put all your question in the question box that is in your screen. With that, welcome Avinash, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good to have you all join the session, and thank you for making the time to discuss various issues which we at Dun & Bradstreet see SMEs in general and with specific respect to what's happening currently, even now, the impact of COVID-19. Somebody will roll the slides. Maybe in terms of making things contextual, I guess there are a couple of things possibly to touch upon. One is, I guess it's no solace or it's not any balm for anybody, but I guess some of the issues which MSMEs and SMEs are facing in India. I mean, we at Dun & Bradstreet, when we look at other countries where we are present, a lot of the other countries also face very similar issues in terms of the COVID-19 as well as the overall impact. In terms of Dun & Bradstreet itself, we obviously have been in this country in India for over 2.5 decades. We've been very much joined at the hip with small businesses, both medium and at the micro end. We have various initiatives, various products which I'll also touch upon in brief. And globally as well, we are very, very aligned to the needs of small, we call it SMBs in our global context, small and medium-sized businesses. And as I mentioned, the issues are very similar, which are faced in India by you all and by us when we service you all. And these same issues exist for owners outside as well as for our colleagues outside when they deal with MSME businesses. So I think stepping back in terms of giving the context, clearly this is a very important space for all of us, both as citizens of the country and at a more macro level for the government and the decision makers. The creation of jobs, the creation of GDP growth, the creation of exports, enhanced exports. I mean, this segment of the economy has driven a lot of that in the recent past. And obviously, the expectation is that a lot more of this will be driven by you and the sector with help from various service providers such as ourselves in terms of both employment, generating growth, and becoming a much larger part of the ecosystem of the country and helping in the growth of the country. So I think it's just to kind of from the macro view, this is clearly a very important segment of the economy and the sector. As I mentioned, in terms of Dun & Bradstreet, we have been associated with various arms of the government, both at the government level as also in the pure private sector level in terms of various associations, in trying to ensure that the issues such as this report which raises are voiced at the right level, these are discussed at the right level, and possibly assistance which can be curated and evolved is offered to the sector. So our engagement is right across. Historically, we've been involved with the government as well, with various arms of the government in terms of things like SIDBI, FIO, NSIC, where we have various touch points and various MOUs in place where we've been working together. Sorry, on this slide, I just touched upon previously, maybe I'll circle back to it. I touched upon the concept of that, the enhanced growth of the economy, then large share in the GDP is expected to come with SMEs. For which there is lots of things needed to be done, which our report touches upon in terms of enhanced reach of capital, market access, being the two critical things really from that point of view. On the left side is a There's a couple of concentric circle diagrams, as you can see. I think the we track a lot of data globally. We track a lot of data in the Indian market as well. As you know, we are the biggest providers and keepers of business B2B data, business to business data. So in our database, we have a lot of information on corporate entities. And we have, as some of you might know, this unique concept of the DUNS number, which if you're not aware of, I would really urge you to reach out to us or look up on the website or read it and get one for each of your businesses, because that really is a unique identification number and helps you link a lot of things together, not only at your end, but also in terms of the financial ecosystem. In terms of the India business universe, as we've called it here, the total universe is around 81 million entities, out of which we at Dun& Bradstreet have 20 million in our database, and a large number of those obviously are in the SME and the MSME segment. This was something I was referring to just now in terms of our thought leadership, our various strategic relationships with key stakeholders at various in the government as well as in the private sector, the various associations, the kind of brochures, training, documentation we have put out, and the thought leadership we have shown. And we are happy to hear back from you more and include that in our process as well. Recently, as part of what Dun & Bradstreet does, we are represented in the ASSOCHAM, which is one of the larger business associations, as you know. And we also are a co-chair. Dun & Bradstreet is a co-chair. I represent Dun & Bradstreet as a co-chair at the ASSOCHAM. And I think it is on the 26th of this month, we actually have a one-on-one virtual meeting with the Secretary in the Government of India on various issues and things which could be done. So if there are things which you think we can voice on your behalf, please do let us know. We'd be happy to put that together as part of the thought process and the discussion platform. So we're very much here to partner. We're very much here to be part of the ecosystem. And we hope that our services and the products which we sell enable you to effectively do more, which is what this third slide is all about. By providing the products which we do, and we can talk about it, it's on our website, we can talk about it in further detail. Our products allow you to effectively project yourself better, allow yourself to be registered better with your clients, in your ecosystem, in your marketplace, allow yourself to look more credible by getting our reports, our ratings done, whereby a Dun & Bradstreet analysis and a report on you will enable you to project yourself better in the financial market system, in your own market ecosystem, get better clients, get better financing. And as the study has shown, the two key concerns for most companies in the sector are really the access to capital. And as we know, that's not only in India, but that's everywhere. And one route for capital is the government. Obviously, the second route of that is the private sector, the banking system, the NBFC, angel investors, VC, private equity, friends and family, whatever you call it. So by making yourself more credible, putting a lot more information on yourself out in the right format, the right domain, presented well, rated well, will help you effectively get more credibility and access from that point of view. Obviously, because as I mentioned, we have a lot of clients, corporate information in our database. A lot of large companies use our database to access their information and make conclusions on who they want to work with and who they not want to work with, who they want to work with more. And that is what we are mentioning in our second point, where a large number of companies have put customized credit assessment reports on a large number of you. So by being in our database with this DUNS number, possibly one of our products, it really helps in terms of making your base larger and do a lot more for yourself. Obviously, we have, as I said, thought leadership, and we reach out. A lot of the large companies also reach out to us in terms of, who are the next set of clients. Banks reach out to us as to who are the next set of companies they should talk to and bank with. And all of that which we do in terms of the workshop, the seminars, the networking events. And we have done that so far for maybe close to 10,000 MSME owners. through maybe 100+ interventions. And obviously, in terms of trainings, we have in the past run, training programs along with some of the government organizations as well, SIDBI and others, and we are talking with many more right now in terms of bringing a lot more owners and people together in terms of some of the issues which impact you on a daily basis regarding financing, market outreach, and compliance. I think the one thing I would say also is that specifically with regard to the sector, of late, we ourselves at Dun & Bradstreet have come up with some very innovative products in terms of the size of the company, in terms of giving you reliability and credibility and access to our database. So recently, we've come up with a product called the DRS, which is the Dun & Bradstreet DUNS Registered Solution, which allows you to effectively put some information on yourself out, come to our database, and be looked at by this large number of companies which I mentioned who are searching our database for the new supplier, for the next supplier, for a better supplier. So I think, if I could conclude my opening remarks and hand over to Arun, I think treat us as your partner. We have a lot of expertise globally in terms of helping the SME. We have a lot of expertise in India. We have a lot of track record in India, having done this for 25 years nearly, and building the ecosystem out. This is a remarkable survey which we have done with a large number of companies spread across 7 cities, and specifically with regards to what's happening in the ecosystem today. And we thought it'd be of interest to you to share it with you and to take learnings from it and see what are the interactions we can have together and how we can help you with our array of products, specifically the new ones which I mentioned. As I mentioned, the overall obviously is the DUNS number, and then I mentioned the DRS, which is the Dun & Bradstreet DUNS Registered Solution. You can very much look up our website. You can Google it, read about it, and if there's something which interests you, these are not very expensive solutions. They are very credible. They're very reliable. They help you in the overall scheme of things. We've recently launched this product out, and we've already close to 1,000 SME owners who have already signed up and are using this. So we very much appreciate you taking your time today. Thank you again. And let me hand over to Arun, Dr. Arun Singh, who can walk you through some of the slides, and then we'd like to very much answer your questions, get your comments, and have a very lively interaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avinash, for such a wonderful introduction, and welcome everybody to this webinar, and thank you for joining. And I know this is very apt time for Indian MSMEs, that last year we had a tough time, and first few months we have seen some hope, some improvement in overall economic ecosystem, production, and then demand curve. But unfortunately, we hit to the second wave. In the last year, we all know this. In fact, that was a once in a century issue. I can recall various research, various studies we've done that captured 100 years back Spanish flu issue. Since then, there was various shocks to the economy in the form of what we call the oil shocks, global financial shocks, European financial crisis, and we have a dot-com bubble. We had Asian financial crisis, but none of those were equivalent to what we have seen 2020. And in fact, we are in the middle of that now. In India, basically, we are facing second wave, and most of the country have seen already second wave, third wave, and there are various recovery plan for them. For us, in order to understand all those scenarios, that how bad MSME got impacted from the pandemic, what is the demand curve look like, what is the recovery process will look like, what they are doing currently, what they need to do currently to ensure that the recovery is smooth and they're not feeling the pain what most of the country, most of the other MSME in the other countries have seen. Keeping those objective in the mind, we reached out to something around 250 small businesses in India during month of November, December, to understand what is the impact of COVID-19 on their overall operation. what is the likelihood of revival, and the revival means how long they're going to take to revive, going back to the pre-pandemic level. What are the challenges they already faced, and what are the challenges they are now facing during the pandemic, and what are the challenges they are likely to face post-pandemic. Some of the measures, some of the support, some of the intervention they required from the various stakeholders, the government, to ensure that they are able to come out of crisis and recover faster. And what is the role of digitization, and how MSME in India are able to or willing to adopt next gen technology, what we talk about Industry 4 technology, which is basically, this time we don't want to miss the gun. And when I cover up the slide, I will talk about that, how we have missed last 3 industrial revolution, and this time we do not have a time, or we do not have any opportunity to miss Industry 4. Otherwise, we'll risk the sustainable growth going forward. So these small businesses, when we reached out last year, where basically their annual revenue was 100 crore to 300 crore, we asked pre-design, through a 100 crore to 300 crore was their annual revenue. We asked through pre-designed questionnaires in all those area that I talked about, which is there on the left hand side. And 50% of those companies belongs to the services sector, 50% of those companies belongs to the manufacturing sectors. Largely, they were from the 7 big cities. Looking in the penetration of the company in India, you see the majority of the company are based out of Mumbai and NCR. So hence that you can see the pie for those set of city is very high. And then you have Chennai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Hyderabad, and some other smaller cities. The idea of that, to cover a fair bit of understanding for small businesses in India in terms of the revenue which we have. Of course, government definition will differ. Most of the company service provider will have a different definition. That's a definition which basically having a maximum traction. And that's a definition what Avinash was talking about. Government of India looking to promote so as the maximum contribution coming in order to achieve the 50% of GDP contribution by next 5 years, which is a huge task. But collectively, we feel we can do that. It just basically we need a roadmap, we need a consensus to go ahead. And why I'm saying, because in India, Avinash was presenting earlier that we have something around 81 million economic entities. Out of that, 27 million economic entities, which basically either they have one labor operating with them, or they have they're operating from some permanent location. At least you are able to spot them where they are. They are just 27 million, and these 27 million contribute 30% to GDP. Unfortunately, 94% of them are unorganized sector, which means the impact of COVID-19 was huge on them, and hence it makes imminent sense to understand what type of the company basically they are and what type of intervention they need in order to make them a formal sector, which Government of India already started. And once they are in part of the formal sector, they're basically pushed forward to the growth trajectory. Now, coming to the survey finding, the first question, of course, not surprisingly, in fact, we all expected that if you're saying that I was not impacted, then certainly either you are in a very IT, in fact, providing some services which is supporting work from home environment, either you are some of the chemist shop or something, because your shops were on and you basically had a business. But that's not the true, because the majority of the sectors we have either where they were shut during the pandemic, or they were allowed to operate with a limited capacity, and hence more than 80% of the company felt the some what you call negative impact. Why I'm saying in DNB we track global what you call COVID-19 disruption tracker, wherein we're looking at government restriction and which pin code they are operating globally or in India, that how many company or what percentage of company got impacted. In April 2020, when we looked at the commercial enterprises, where basically, what I have to say, the non-essential commercial enterprises, where most of us will be part of that, 95% of that was disrupted. 95% of those companies were disrupted. And when we progress towards end of 2020 till August 2020, at least 70% of the company were impacted. That number in February 2021 went down to 40%. So till February 2021, 40% of the company, which was part of non-essential activities, were impacted in spite of the fact that government withdrawn the lockdown restriction and there was a most of the activity allowed in spite of the fact that basically it was 40%. Fortunately, that number in first week of April was something 20%. But when we calculate for last couple of weeks of April, I'm sure that number will go back to something 40 and slightly more than that, because that number is still being constructed because April is not over yet. And we know why I'm saying at this point of time is pretty much most of the state are going back to either night curfew, either some sort of restriction, some sort of what you call lockdown, which means as a company, we are again feel disrupted. And when we do survey in few months time, and I think that number will look something different, but going for the first wave, going by what we have seen in December 2020, 82% of the company felt impacted, 87% was from the manufacturing and 78% from the services sector. What is more alarming and not surprising from a context perspective that 94% of the companies are unorganized. But that's a concern. And I'm toward the end of this PPT, I will try to share that the certain things is not in our hand. In fact, talk about the Spanish flu, talk about the European financial crisis, global financial crisis, dot-com bubble. There are these economic shocks. They are part of business cycle. They are part of outside economic cycle. We cannot avoid. I mean, this basically what you call we have to adopt. What we can do, basically, we can have those disaster recovery framework, which is basically in our hand. And there are many tools internally and outside support available to ensure that our entire ecosystem of a company operation or the prospect or the client or the vendor are rightly covered, as the impact of such a pandemic or any of the economic shocks is as low as possible. Unfortunately, more than 70% of small businesses said that they do not have any what we call disaster recovery framework, which is the need of the hour. Now, I think most of us have realized that we need disaster recovery framework with the help of external or third party. Now, moving on, some of pointed questionnaire and pointed findings, what we have basically seen. We got that there are more than 80% of the company impacted or negatively impacted through pandemic. More than 70% of companies didn't have any disaster recovery tool. What are the challenges? What are the challenges they have faced historically? And what are the challenges basically aggravated during the pandemic, which you feel that will be a biggest threat, biggest hindrance, biggest what I can say constraint for scaling up your business? And in DNB, what I have seen last 2 decades, when we basically talk to companies, and when Avinash touch based, many of challenges come forward, but couple of challenges basically consistent, and during the pandemic that got just elevated. One is a market access. 42% of you felt that the market access is the biggest challenge you face in order to scale up the business, which means connecting to prospect either domestic market, connecting to prospect with the international market. The tool is either not available with you, or if it's available, that's very difficult to access, which means that is the biggest challenge. The second or third biggest challenge what we face, no surprise, again, the having access to the finance. There's a reason from both sides, from a company side and from a financer side. The need of the hour that I think government have taken various steps last 10 years, especially last few years, to bridge that gap. But I think during pandemic that got escalated further. Now there's a need that all the stakeholders come forward to ensure that that gap of what we call the access to the finance, which is the core for scaling up your operation, is as low as possible and coming down. And basically, I'll talk about that piece, how to how to navigate that piece, how to basically ensure that you have a equal footing conversation or a great conversation with your financer with those set of element. And then of course productivity was the another issue highlighted. I understand because the pandemic put everything into the stall. All the companies were able to work from home and other digital methods, they managed to some extent, but most of us got disrupted. Now moving on to the other set of questionnaire, basically the challenges are there. Now, those challenges cannot be overcome by your alone intervention. In fact, if you try to take care of those challenges alone, certainly not possible, which means as a company, you need help from the government, you need help from the other people, you need help from the other people around the ecosystem. So what was, what was that? How to ensure that the better credit facilities are available to the MSMEs, the better marketing supports are available to the MSMEs, and of course, adoption of the new age technologies. There's many things. One, the research and development can be promoted through the government, how government can provide the customized, how government can provide the subsidized technology, and how company can basically train in order to take care of that. And of course, there are other challenges which you have faced wherein you need help from the government or other people around you. Now, moving on the funding piece, because this is what's coming out again and again. I was just trying to bifurcate that the handful of the people, or maybe the percentage of the people who are able to manage the fund, either various source, what are the basically loan look like, and what type of basically, what you call intervention you take, and where are all these funds coming for? What is the requirement area? So if you can see the 47, roughly around 50% of people are talking about the unsecured loan, working finance. There are some challenges. I understand unsecured, of course, there's a collateral requirement. There are other stuff which you're not able to provide. So basically go in that route. Secured business loan is basically 37%. But if you look at digital lenders, last 5 years, we are talking about the fintech penetration into the systems. Unfortunately, in spite of that, just 11% of you are opting for that. I do understand there's a sample, but when we populate it out, that figure might not change much. It will be basically a couple of percentage points here and there. That's the space, I believe, the various technology provider in the financial space, the analytical companies who are basically providing the analytical solution along with the companies come together to ensure that those areas are captured well, and basically they're captured to the full extent and full efficiency, because that's the area where no incremental cost one can expect in terms of lending into the third party or lending into the company. So that's the area I think government is working. That's the area I think most of the player within this ecosystem needs to work and make it successful. Now, there are, of course, biggest threat or challenges to that one big challenge what we talk about. I'm saying the reason behind that challenge, which basically why people are not able to find the in a finance, and that got aggravated during the pandemic, is basically this focus from a banker, focus from a lender on the credit scores, a collateral requirement, uncertain cash flows, need for financial literate or maybe the documentation exercise, and the lack of credit info. If you see the 35% of you feel that the credit score is what is a critical part, and I think that is the area I believe we can collaboratively ensure that that has been taken care of, is not a big issue, at least from the financing or at least from the funding perspective. Now, when it comes to the marketing, that's another intervention you all felt, along with the financing, intervention on the financing front or finance front. The other intervention, what we found, that's a marketing and sales intelligence. In fact, very few of MSME use any type of sales intelligence tool or marketing tools, but the most of them who doesn't use, maybe 61% does not use, but the 49% of that 61% express the need to use going forward, which means there's extreme desire and there's a need And there's an understanding that how sales intelligence tool and the marketing tool will ensure that even during the pandemic, even during the crisis, your businesses or your demand curve is up and there's not impacted because you are able to channelize your sales, sales energy to either the domestic market or global market in a more smart way. There are left-hand side box, if you see the manufacturing company have used some of the tools, services sector, services companies have used some of the tools. These are some of the tools. There are many other tools available to ensure that at least your sales intelligence are well taken care of, and you are basically ready to capture not just the domestic market, also in the international market. So the willingness is there. Around 50% of the company have expressed the need to go for the sales intelligence tool to navigate during the pandemic or during the crisis. So that's a great sign. Now, when it comes to the market access, now I understand the pain point. I understand that how entire ecosystem need overhauling, because when it looks to the market access during the domestic, within the domestic market, I think a significant person, maybe around 70%, I can say, is you found during the domestic in the domestic market easy to very easy, which is not an issue. I mean, 70% of you feel that looking at domestic is not a concern. The concern emanate when you look at the prospect in the international market. So I can say only 30% of you is the reverse, basically. 30% of you feel something is easy or very easy, but remaining, I mean, not able to find answer or it's difficult. In fact, it's difficult to look at what you call ease scale. When I talk about on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy you are able to look your prospect in the international market, you feel very, very bad in terms of the global market, which means there's a need for either the government and the various stakeholder to come forward to ensure that the small businesses have a very quick and very easy access to the global marketplace, global players, global audience, global companies. So as basically they come, maybe we can go and start exposing our product or our services. So that's basically need of our for all of the stakeholders to come forward and work around that. Now, one thing I think it was forced. If I have to go back a few years back, when Government of India came up with the Digital India initiatives, I know with the 44 mission mode project, there was very few, especially the banking space. Those are very successful mission mode project, because today I think entire banking stream, we have a core banking and it's basically highly digitized. Only one mission mode project out of 44 had a huge success, and in fact the other one was the passport. I think that was another huge success, but rest of the mission mode project was basically in the middle of from start to the completion date and struggling to do this one. And I do understand that the pandemic has impacted, but it has a other positive sign. Most of us at a global level or at a domestic level and at a country level, the digitization pace has been fast forwarded by 7 to 10 years, which means in a normal circumstance and in a pre-pandemic era, if you have to look at the growth of the growth of the digital space, should have taken at least 7 to 10 years to reach the level of digitization we have achieved during the pandemic, because it was forced. We had no option. Either you work from home or digitize your operation, or you risk shutting down your business. Fortunately, 82% of you have said that you have digitized your operation somehow, either the partial, either the fully, or some percentage you have observed. 89%, almost roughly 90% from the services sector, 78% from the manufacturing. I can understand that. But the biggest positive was that with that, you were able to reduce some of the operational costs. I do understand there was some of the initial glitches in terms of adopting or putting some money to digitize those services, but you managed to do that one. And good that at least what I can say, that around 70% or 65 to 70% of you were able to save within manufacturing, were able to save more than 10% of your cost, which is great, which means that cost can be, the saving cost can be channelized to the better area where one can basically have a more productive or more efficient way of using those savings. Now, the second piece where basically what problem you have solved and what benefit you have got into the basic operation areas. So 58% of services sector was basically able to manage. In fact, left hand side, if you see, most of you were cited. In fact, there's a most traditional, traditional problem which digitization should have solved, customer focus, logistic and supply chain, data security, evolution of the product and the services. You had a problem within the services sector, within the manufacturing sector. Fortunately, during the pandemic, by adopting digitization, you were able to resolve those problems, not just enhance competitiveness because you have a better control, you have better control on the cost, you can understand your customer better because you can basically match two data element, two company, looking at the vendor side, looking at the customer side, looking at the prospect side, which area you can explore your product, which area you can basically look at for the prospect by using the digital tool, not by using the manual tools, what normally most of us doing, and standardizing and automating some of the business process. So pandemic had created a pain, but it's also given us some upside in the form of digitization, and that have resolved multiple issues which we have faced for many years. Now, moving to some of the final slides, last couple of slides, in that when we asked what you feel about Industry 4 revolution in terms of the smart manufacturing, in terms of adopting Industry 4, most of you now feel the need to go ahead because of pandemic have taught that without Industry 4 adoption, I think we're going to miss the bus. Why I was saying in the start of the conversation that if I have to take you 250 years back when Industry 1 started, fortunately, India was in the third ranking in terms of the top 7 countries, if I have to take in terms of what you call the per capita income. I'm talking about these countries, Germany, France, China, US, UK, and so on and so forth, such a big countries. And we were the third largest country in terms of the per capita income. Industry 1 gone, Industry 2 gone, Industry 3 gone, which each industry revolution, we were running, in fact, and we were winning that, but the winning was towards the bottom line. In fact, we were losing, we were coming down towards the end of the spectrum. By the time Industry 4 hit us, or after the Industry 3, we are now the bottom of all these 7 countries. The reason was that we were never kept the pace with all those Industry 1, 2, 3. Now today, we cannot afford, because I think pandemic has shown that I think Industry 4 cannot be overlooked or cannot be basically, just ignored, which means 70% of roughly 70% of the manufacturing company, equally services company, feel the need. And I think in fact, there's a eagerness, there's a need to do this, and that's a great sign going forward. Now, just to summarize what basically we talked about that, of course, more than 80% of the company was impacted. Access to the market was the biggest concern, followed by the financing need, and hence there's support required. Lack of credibility, affects the small businesses finding external capital. So that's what basically clear. The majority of you, either use the sales and marketing tools or have a desire to use. Basically today around 35-39% use, but rest of the people are basically have a desire to use marketing tool or what you call sales acceleration tool. So that's a great sign. COVID-19, as I said, that accelerated the pace of digitization, and they have in fact small businesses have experienced the benefit of digital adoption. And the last one, in fact, the most of you, as I said, that are open to adopt the new age technology. Now, that is what for all of us individually. But if you look at that impact area from overall economic perspective, either from your vendor side or from your customer side or from a what you call compliance side, you talk from the prospect side, or finding a new customer either in the domestic market or in the international market, because that's a part of entire ecosystem. The 82% company got impacted. I mean, of course, you are a part of that, but that will be your customer, that will be your vendor, that will be your prospect. And in fact, they equally gone through the same pain, which means the need of R at this point of time for all of us is to look at these 5 core areas. In fact, we need to reassess our management strategy, in fact, risk management strategy across, because this pandemic has impacted each country in a different way. Most of the country have shown the recovery and they're basically recovered. In fact, today uh, in my country, risk analysis, none of the country out of 132 which we track globally are part of one ranking, which means none of the countries on the global map is safe to do business, which means if we are exporter, if we are importer, or if we are looking at the vendor, or if you are looking at the customer, we need to understand their impact. They're also going to impact whether they are going to be bankrupt, whether they are going to be basically not paying me on time, or whether I should do the business with them, or maybe there's a red flag or there's a compliance issue. All we need to be basically mindful of that, because it's not about yourself, it's also about the ecosystem around you that's going to create a painful. We need to closely monitor your business network. It's not just your vendor, it's not just your customer, it's also your vendors and vendors customer and customers vendor and customers customer, because any person in the chain in a manufacturing, if they are importing from China, Taiwan, or US, is supply chain disruption happen. I think we all aware of Suez Canal things will happen. In fact, none. I mean, most of us are not felt impacted, but there are many countries got impacted because they were importing and they were using those routes, got disrupted. It's always fair to understand that how your vendors doing and how your customers doing. That should not impact your supply chain. That should not impact the payment flow, that should not impact your cash flow, that should not impact your entire business model, which means we need to closely monitor the business network. We need to monitor each country where we basically engage, not just from export perspective, also from the import perspective. Maybe your input got stuck and you're not able to supply to your supplier, or basically there's something happening. And then we need to partner with the analytical expert, the third party data provider, which basically to keep you ahead of the curve during the pandemic or post pandemic, because the recovery will take very fast and very rapid, and none of us can ignore that growth phase, which means we have to be part of that one. Now with that, we'll move to from our side, that how we can help as a company. And I think Avinash touched base in a large, and he've given a full overview or ecosystem of where as a company we can partner to ensure that your vendors are, I mean, at least you have information about your vendors, you have information about your customer, and at the same time you have full control on yourself, either when talk about the credibility, whether talk about finding a domestic prospect, whether finding a international prospect. Basically, you have a full control on yourself. That area, basically, DNB can help with various products which we have, most of them domestic, most of them global. But the idea is that we are working already with the government body, and we are helping government to reach out to the MSME community in India to ensure that they get a benefit, looking at what the government target have by contributing to 50% of GDP by 2025. So we all are part of the same game. We are, I think, trending in the same direction. It's just basically we need to basically partner, and we need to basically have a collaboration with that to grow in the same direction. With that, I will close, and of course, with that, we are open for a Q&A. And thank you for joining this session. And I'll be happy to answer if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun. I think both Arun and I are happy to take any questions, and more than questions, also any comments or any suggestions you might have, either now or later, whichever you prefer. We are here now, so if there's anything else now, please do feel free to, as I think our colleague Noina said, to raise them in a particular way. She's on the line as well, so I'll let her do her best.
Sure, we are now ready for questions. You can put your question in the question tab in the presentation. Arun, there's a question for you. Looking at present scenario, the things are looking a little bit more gloomy. There's lockdowns happening in different state. Though the SME said that it would be about a year for them to look at recovery. What is your assessment in terms of how the recovery will happen, and where would the small businesses will stand in present context?
So I think the problem with the small business is not just related to India. In fact, that's we are tracking multiple countries. They're basically going through the same thing. And the expectation from you and the research being put up was clearly indicated that when we reach out to what we call a significant number of vaccination, a significant what we call percentage of the companies are operating on the ground. Today is a different direction. Today, it basically we are back in somehow, October or September type scenario. And the ask was that when we basically come to the normal scenario, what we had in the sense, not even the January, February. In fact, we have not reached to the normal scenario where the companies being asked to operate at a pre-pandemic level. The day we reach from there, most of us will take at least 1 year to recover. Now, having said that, during this phase, what is required is the handholding from the government. Now, the handholding from the government, I do understand there is a limited scope from the government, but there are many other scope which basically utilized the fund what they have or channelize those funds to the most impacted area. If that's not happening, then certainly most of small businesses will see what we call the recovery curve, what we call extended recovery curve. Maybe basically it will just shift by a couple of quarters. What ideally we should have seen by this quarter or by next quarter, but that's likely to shift maybe a couple of quarter more toward the right side when it looks the recovery tail. But during that time, I believe government have realized they cannot withdraw the support measures provided to the MSME, and they have to basically keep intact. What is the silver lining and what is the good things about this? Because I think manufacturing working is just basically a couple of weeks we have seen in couple of, in fact, is a sporadic event of lockdown. The cities and then maybe non-cities is still working. So there is some silver line. The second silver line is that during January, February, or in fact, last couple of quarters, look at the GDP data. The recovery was very fast. And in fact, that was the expectation that it's not a business cycle, is not about economic shocks. This is external to the economic shocks. So your normal demand supply interaction or intersection does not come into the picture, which means you do not lack what we call a traditional problem of demand, supply, and other stuff. It's basically a pandemic. Of course, it will have economic repercussions, but the recovery will be faster than as compared to the normal economic shocks, which means we have a two silver lining when it comes to the recovery. But in order to facilitate, in order to meet those, what we need is basically full control of the pandemic. And I believe we all know that will take some time, at least few months it will go from today in order to say comfortably that we have vaccinated good number of people. At the same time, the New Delhi addition is coming down and manageable and most of the economic activities open up. But then from there we can start counting month. But today it's, certainly I think what I can say in a summary, our recovery curve is just delayed by a couple of quarters.
Avinash, the next question is for you. That Dun & Bradstreet has done a COVID impact index last time in 2020, Now 2021, again, we are seeing that the second wave is really impacting the Indian industry. What are the things that, Dun& Bradstreet's plan, and how are you planning to help the industry?
Sure. So I think, that's thank you for the question. So I think there are a couple of things to look at when you ask. So I mean, maybe a good thing to talk about ourselves as well. So I mean, although we are a much larger business, we are a global business, but I guess what happened last year was first time for everybody. Uh, Working from home, working in a very disjointed way, not having access to the tools, the technology, and the ecosystem effectively where one can deliver service to its clients. So we ourselves last March in 2020, learned a lot, I guess, in terms how to work together and bring things together for our clients as the pandemic and the lockdowns took shape. And due credit to some of the things we touched upon, access to resources, access to clients, having a good brand name, having credibility, having recognition, having reliability. Our clients stood by us, and we pulled together in terms of being able to deliver our services. So I think that was the first thing really from that point of view. But also when the second, if you call this the second wave and the second lockdown, we as a organization are very focused on our resources in the larger cities, which are basically part of the survey as well of this report. And obviously, so far, because of all the processes, people, technology, digitization, whatever you call it, we put in place, we've been able to continue to deliver our services quite seamlessly. So I think that is one aspect to think about. That how do you prepare? I think Arun mentioned that at the start of the pandemic, uh, basically nobody was prepared for this kind of disruption. So I think given what's happening in the wider ecosystem now, in the economy now, uh, as Arun also mentioned, there have been various crises in the world. Some of us have lived through many of them. Each crisis has its own challenges. The last global financial crisis, people lost their financial stability. We went through a whole process of QE and all of that from a global point of view. But this is about lives. This is about health. So this is more serious. So even in our workplace, we have a lot of people who are impacted by it. One has to be cognizant of it and plan around it. So I think this, as Arun said, this is pushing things out by a few quarters. But one hopes that, with the vaccination, with the distancing, and with more awareness, I guess, around hygiene and social distancing and health protocol, that, the spread of this can be contained. And the growth will come back. There is latent demand globally, definitely, as you can see, if it's a little far away for us, but the Chinese economy grew in double digit. GDP grew in double digit over last year, given what the impact was. The World Bank, IMF put out various projections, which Arun takes into account in his analysis for the 132 countries he mentioned, where the growth in some of these countries which are more organized and able to contain the pandemic is expected to be quite phenomenal. So no reason why here too, given our own market, given our own needs, if we are able to pull everything together, we should have good growth. But right now, I think most of us, including our clients, are just hunkering down and making sure that we deliver well on what we could do before and what we can do now.
Right. With that, the second question which is coming, I mean, any one of you can take it, because Avinash is very close to what you just said, and even Arun says. What would be the top 3 things that you think that, small business should look at to be more resilient post the pandemic scenario?
Arun, you want to take a first shot, or should I go first?
Yeah, I'll basically talk about. So one, thanks Manuela for a question, and I think that was that in fact I was expecting, because Avinash was saying earlier that we have seen these crises, and each crisis gives some message, and each crisis gives some learning. Now, for us in India, and for most of the countries who basically went through second wave and third wave, first wave taught, and in fact today, we basically cannot rely on the fully on the government and external forces to come and rescue us, because that we know better. We have seen 2020 and we are prepared, that we know what needs to be done. We cannot basically claim that we are not aware of. The one thing is basically one just take close to what basically I just have said, that in order to ensure you are fully protected from the COVID and the impact of the COVID on your organization in terms of the people, in terms of the other people. The second thing is that take a help from the third party and then stakeholders to understand your customer and customer's customer and vendors, because there has to be awareness about your ecosystem, because you cannot just depend on the external, your own external forces, or the government forces will come and rescue you. Basically, you have to take your own call to ensure that you are basically feel protected and you are basically control of your own business. Basically, taking help of, what we have in order to how good your vendor is doing, how bad your customer is doing, or vice versa. That's one thing. And the third thing is that now we need to redefine the demand curve. We need to redefine where is basically demand is looking like, how we can increase that reach to the customer. Customer sometime is there in XYZ. We need to basically reach out to them in order to find them where they are, and what is the diversification strategy required in order to look at what product is the need of the hour. In fact, the pandemic, we all have seen many products have emerged. It was not there. It's basically part of what we call back of the mind. We have the innovation. We have the innovation. We are, end of the day, we are not just entrepreneur. We are also the innovator for somehow. We talk about the frugal engineering, but that's not a bad stuff. I think basically we are aware of this one. Is it basically spotting this opportunity, which area, which segment looking like, and where we can basically partner in order to take this forward. That things, I think, the need of the hour to ensure that we stay ahead of the curve, because we have a learning from 2020 hit. Now 2021 will basically needs to execute those learning in order to stay ahead of the curve, because I think it's going to be for some month more and we cannot remain isolated. So that's the three things I was expecting, I think, as a company, as an entity should be able to do in order to protect from impact of the pandemic further.
I think if I can just add to that, Arun, I think it's obviously much more difficult to execute. It's much more easier to give advice, but downtime or whatever you call it, or there are various possibly things which one could pull together. And some of the things which Arun touched upon in his presentation about making yourself more financially presentable. I think it is one learns through experience in life. It is at the bad times when you reach out and you give more information about yourself. You give a lot more truth about yourself, is when the capital providers respect you most. When there is lack of information, there is more worry. But when you give your true picture, I think people who respect you will respect you more. So I think some of the things we talked about in some of our products is for the DUNS registered solution. If that's something which helps you gain more credibility, gain more insight as to, and project yourself better into the global database of ours and other people who look at it. Providing credibility reports on yourself, on your financial position, will help in terms of financial providers looking at you differently. So I think any downtime can be used productively, and maybe hygiene, capital structure hygiene, financial hygiene, if one can spend some time on, will obviously help. So I think those are things which one can do. Those will, whenever this thing ends, I think you'll be in a much stronger position.
Arun, somebody is checking that, do you have any specific data on the health and effect of pandemic on the paperboard packaging industry? We probably haven't gone in that micro, right, in the research?
No, I think that will be very limited. I think what we have captured, sample size itself, around 250 companies. When you talk about the sectoral, that basically will be slightly moderate number, and reflecting on the larger scale, this will be Technically, I think we should avoid that. So yeah, I mean, basically the categorization is that are you part of essential or not part of essential, or whether it's the manufacturing or services. If you look at that, pretty much everything non-essential manufacturing have a one level of impact which has been captured in the PPT, and everything which is non-essential and the services sector have a similar level of impact. So I think the impact level might not vary from various sectors to sectors. It's part of the non-essential.
And again, just to add to that, Noina, I think what I heard was paper and packaging. Was it? Or just broadly
Yes.
paper?
Paper and board packaging industry. Yes.
Yeah. So I think, we were actually earlier this week talking to another client of ours who's in the paper industry, large corporate, been there for a while, based in East India, and obviously plants elsewhere as well. And obviously things are slow, as you know, and I guess the messages we took away from them was that, let's wait till June and see how demand picks up. Luckily, in their case, they do not have too much debt and leverage, so they are not too worried about the situation. But globally, if you follow the industry, for example, Stora Enso and some of the other larger players in Finland actually have been, putting capacity on hold just because demand is reduced given the pandemic. And obviously on the packaging side, that is where a lot of Stora Enso, for example, and people like that are moving a lot of their capacity into the packaging side rather than the paper side. So I think it is a wait and watch here as well in India, but we haven't really, as Arun said, gone into that kind of amount of micro detail in this study.
With that, we have the last question for today. Arun, this is on the GDP. I mean, where you see the GDP of India going now in 2021 and vis-a-vis, all the countries that you track globally.
No, I think starting, in fact, if you see, when not just DNB, in fact, IMF, World Bank, and most of us, when we projected December 2019, that data, if you take it, and when we projected May 2020, if you take that data, if you look at the gap between two, that economic loss from the world map is 80% of the European Union's production today. So 80% of the European Union is basically lost. That's a basically loss we had, and that's because of the pandemic. Fortunately, towards end of 2020, there's a hope, and most of the countries went through the U-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery, and India was part of the V-shaped recovery, and unfortunately got hit again with the second wave. Before we got hit, our projection was 11.5% for fiscal year starting from April 2021 to March 2022. But unfortunately, as we hit and then March, the signs were started coming in, not just in India, most of the companies, the Brazil, UK gone through, and other countries gone through. So we had to revise it down, because during the crisis, it's a GDP projection is very, very tentative, because it's assumption based, and sometimes it goes for a toss. So revised down for most of the countries, and India is no exception. And India have a full reason to revise down further. As of now, from lower double-digit number, we have revised it to the higher double-digit number, something around 9 to 9.5% from 11.5%. It's a 2 percentage point down today. Given the fact, by assuming that lockdown might ease during May or any week of during May, if the lockdown or sporadic event of the lockdown continues beyond May, I think one can see the further deterioration.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thank you so much, Avinash. Thank you so much, all our viewers today for the webinar. We would be sending out a link to the white paper to all of you after this event. And thank you once again from all of us in Dun & Bradstreet India. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.